Welcome to the Razors Inc. podcast with your host, Jonathan Farini. In jazz in particular, there are those who are masters of their instrument, those who are able to make the instruments extensions of themselves, singing and bringing to musical life ideas that spring from one's mind. And then there are those who go beyond and transform the genre itself. So pour yourself a drink, pull up a chair, and hear Jonathan's take on movies, television, and today, a salute to not just a great pianist, but an influential one. Here's your host, Jonathan Farini.
There's something humbling about reaching a certain age, in my case 68, and realizing there are still entire worlds of music you've barely entered. I've spent a lifetime listening. I grew up with the soundtrack of the 60s, the British invasion, Motown, folk music, protest songs, and the beginnings of rock. I lived through the 70s with all its experimentation and excess. I absorbed the polished craftsmanship of the 80s, liking some of it, hating most of it. But I've kept listening ever since. Popular music has been a lifelong companion. But jazz has always remained just beyond my grasp. Not because I didn't respect it, quite the opposite. I've always sensed there was something profound there, but it often felt like entering a conversation midway through among people who all seemed to know a language I didn't speak. So I admired jazz from a distance, until Bill Evans. Somewhere along the way, Bill Evans found me, or maybe I finally became ready to hear him. Yeah, that's it. That's the answer. And I've been asking myself a simple question. Why does his music move me so deeply when I don't really know jazz? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? Why, after 6 decades of listening to music, am I suddenly being drawn into the quiet world of a jazz pianist who died more than 40 years ago? To understand that, maybe it helps to understand the man. Bill Evans was born in 1929 in Plainfield, New Jersey. He was a gifted child, had classical training. He had extraordinary talent from the beginning. But like many artists whose work feels emotionally transparent, his life was not easy. He lived through personal struggles, emotional fragility, addiction, heartbreak, and loss. His brother Harry, to whom he was deeply attached, died by suicide. Evans himself struggled for years with heroin addiction and later cocaine dependence. He was admired, celebrated, and respected by his peers, but much of his life seems to have been lived in the shadows between brilliance and pain. He played with Miles Davis on Kind of Blue, one of the most important jazz albums ever recorded. Please listen to it. He changed jazz piano forever. He won Grammy Awards. He was revered by musicians, and yet by many accounts he remained deeply vulnerable. He died in 1980 at just 51 years old. To some of you that sounds old, but to many of us, man, that's prime time. People close to him described it as a kind of slow suicide, not dramatic, but cumulative. A body and spirit worn down over the years. And maybe that's part of what I'm hearing. Not just notes, not technique, not jazz, but a life. A life translated into sound. There's a phrase people often use about great musicians. They say they play from the heart. But with Bill Evans, it feels more specific than that. It feels as though he's thinking and feeling in real time, as though he's allowing you to overhear his private interior world. There's vulnerability there, tenderness, longing, regret, acceptance, sometimes even peace. His music doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand your attention. It invites it. It's not trying to impress you. It's trying to tell you something. And perhaps at this stage of my life, I'm finally old enough to understand that. When I was younger, music often meant energy, excitement, identity. Who am I? What do I love? What tribe do I belong to? Music was movement. Bill Evans feels different. His music asks, who have you become? What have you lost? What have you learned? What remains after all the noise fades? There's something about maturity, about having lived long enough to know disappointment, resilience, heartbreak, and gratitude that makes his music feel especially potent. I hear pauses, and I understand pauses now. I hear melancholy, and I know that melancholy isn't the same as sadness. It's richer. It contains memory. I hear restraint, and I recognize the wisdom in restraint. Bill Evans doesn't rush. He lingers. He allows uncertainty. He lets chords hang in the air like unanswered questions, and maybe that's what draws me in. Not certainty, but honesty. Popular music often tells us how to feel. Bill Evans seems to ask us what we feel. That's a profound difference, and maybe that's why I've come to him now. Late, but not too late. There's a particular intimacy in solo piano. No singer, no lyrics, no one telling you what the story is. Just piano, just tone, just touch. And with Bill Evans, touch means everything. Even if you know nothing about jazz theory, which I freely admit I don't, you can hear it. His touch is gentle, searching, human. Sometimes it sounds like someone speaking softly in the next room. Sometimes it feels like remembering something you quite can't name. A place, a person, a season of your life, and maybe that's the magic. His music doesn't simply entertain, it remembers for you, with you. I imagine Bill Evans at the piano, not as a legend, not as an icon, but as a man waking up tired, a man carrying grief, a man finding solace in the instrument before him, a man trying to make sense of his own life through sound. Isn't that what so many of us are trying to do? Make sense of our lives? Translate our joys and disappointments into something meaningful? Most of us don't have a piano. Most of us don't have his genius, but we know the feeling. And maybe that's why I'm drawn to him. Because at 68, I'm less interested in performance, more interested in truth, less interested in virtuosity, more interested in humanity. And Bill Evans offers that in abundance. So, if like me, you've spent decades listening to music, but somehow never really entered jazz, let Bill Evans be your doorway. Don't worry about understanding. Don't worry about labels. Don't worry about what you're supposed to hear. Just listen. Sit quietly. Let the music come toward you. Let it unfold. Let it ask its questions, and perhaps somewhere in those fragile, beautiful piano lines, you'll hear something unexpected. Not just Bill Evans, but yourself. Discovering Bill Evans after 6 decades of listening to music, late or right on time. Until I see you next time, please leave behind a soft footprint, and thank you, Bill Evans. Class is dismissed.
And in case you question Bill Evans' lasting legacy, one need only think about Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, and so many other legends who all cite Bill Evans as the king. And it wasn't because he demanded all or any of the attention. In fact, that may have been Bill Evans' greatest gift to music. He saw jazz as a conversation among equals, which means listening and celebrating differences while rejoicing when it all comes together. Seems there's a life lesson there for today's troubling times. You've been listening to the Razors Inc. podcast with Jonathan Farini. Be sure to check out Jonathan's collection of fiction at jonathanfarini.com. Also, look for Jonathan's short story, The Blue Binder, in which a tattered blue binder reveals a mind that sees pathways no one else can. The Blue Binder, already published in Infinity Wanderers, Modern Literature, and Egophobia magazine, it's been published most recently in the latest edition of Mobius, the Journal of Social Change. Look for it at mobiusmagazine.com or at jonathanfarini.com. You can also drop an email anytime to razorsincpodcast@gmail.com.